Okay, it is 6:02 on June the 15th of 2022. We are going to call the meeting of the Council on Family Resource Centers to order. Item 1.02 is roll call, so I will call roll. Brenda Castillo is absent at this time. Rebecca Paris?
Here.
Susan Siebert is absent at this time. Rachel Kingham?
Here.
Thank you. Scott Benton, I am here. Sherry Lynn Elcano?
That's me here.
Thank you. And Vanessa Vancor?
Here.
Thank you. With that, we do have quorum, so we will continue with our meeting. Item 2 is items for discussion, presentation, discussion, information, and/or action. Public comment will be taken on any items that are action items. A public comment card should be filled out and submitted to our recording secretary before speaking. With that, we'll move into item 2.01, which is approval of the minutes for our March 9th meeting. Looking for a motion from those that were in attendance.
There's a slight delay, but I can do the.
Sorry, I'm
make the
gonna
I guess.
I'm gonna hold the meeting as we're trying to let one of our voting members join.
Yeah, I think you sent one out and then Lisa sent one out, so I feel like there's two floating
I
around.
sent one out for Student Teams Advisory Committee
Okay.
last week, not for this one.
Okay.
Is it Sarah Montalvo?
Yeah.
Let me invite her.
Can you show me what you saw?
Oh, it
here?
just popped up and it's
Okay.
gone now. So
Okay.
it's this one.
Sorry, we're trying to get our legal counsel into the meeting, not a member of the council. Sarah, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you
I
so
apparently
much.
was on a different. Sorry, everybody.
No, thank you for joining. Okay, so we will continue on with 2.01, approval of the minutes of the March 9th, 2022 meeting of the Council on Family Resource Centers. So I'm looking for a motion or any changes to those minutes if you guys so desire.
Make a motion, except there's one change on page 2. I was listed as Rebecca Kingham.
Page 2. Thank you for that.
2.04. Yeah, that was it. That was the only change.
In bold.
Perfect. Will you state your motion as you would like to make it, Rachel?
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion, to approve, to change so that it reads Rachel Kingham, and then to make the motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. With that, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment on this item? Seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Let the record reflect that our member Susan Seifert has arrived at 6:05 p.m.
I apologize, I was stuck in traffic.
We understand. Item 2.02 is review and discussion of meeting dates for the Washoe County School District Council on Family Resource Centers for the 2022-2023 school year, September 21st, 2022, January 18th, 2023, March 15th, 2023, and June 21st, 2023. This is for information and discussion only. I'm going to turn it over to Rochelle.
So we just wanted to kind of get some feedback about these dates. We plan, since this seems to work for everyone, to continue at 6 o'clock. We would like to also try and see if we could do meeting maybe at a family resource center also, so you could see those. So we'll have to plan that with board services ahead of time. If we're able to do that, then we'll have some meetings at a family resource center too, so you can actually be there and see it.
Awesome. Any discussion around these meetings? If I can make, or if I can comment on the dates, if we can make the meetings that are off campus of the administration building not winter dates, so that ideally we're not traveling long
Okay.
distances
Yeah.
uphill both ways.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other discussion? Great, thank you for that, Rochelle. Item 2.03 is presentation and discussion of the Washoe County School District Family Resource Center's funding status and grant applications, including potential fundraising and publicity opportunities. Again, this is for information and discussion only.
I think Lisa and I are going to tag team this. So we wanted to update you on some of our grants, and then I think Chair Benton will chime in as well. I think so. This is going to be a collaborative agenda item. So we are happy to say we have survived grant writing season. Mostly Lisa and Brenda and Wiley. And Jesse have been working really hard on writing our grants. We did get our Funds for Healthy Nevada grant. Today we got notice that we got our Title IV-B grant. Almost, I think it was funded at 88% of our request, so that was good news. We are still waiting on CTF and CB CAP. Which one am I forgetting, Lisa? I know there's another one that I'm forgetting. Is that it? And then I will tell you that we have several staff that are funded under ESSERS, and that's funding that is coming into the school district. In fact, Jesse is funded under an ESSERS grant, and then we have another family advocate that's funded under an ESSERS grant. So that's helped us to have more staff available in the family resource centers to better meet the need. And then we also got word that Human Services Agency is working towards identifying some funding for us for 2 family advocates at our new Feemster Family Resource Center at the new Hug High School.
Awesome.
Did I forget anything, Lisa? Okay. Chair Benton, did you have anything else to add?
I think it's worth noting, I sit on the stakeholders meeting for the ESSERS grant. I have advocated for funding to continue to fund the positions that are currently funding, because ESSERS funding does run out at some point. And I want to plant a seed in all of our minds to how can we make those positions sustainable? They're vital to our resource centers, and I think it's fair that I talk about it everywhere I go. The family resource centers need more funding. And I think if I didn't plant the seed here to see how we can sustain those positions, because we've utilized them in the resource centers for some vital functions, I think I would like everybody to collaboratively think about how we can continue to fund the positions that Jesse fills right now, because that will end at some point, and I would hate for that role to go away and Lisa to have to assume that role.
And I'll add, not to be a Debbie Downer, but if we do lose Jesse and those family advocates, we will have to close a family resource center. She is moving into the O'Brien Family Resource Center when that school opens, and so we need to sustain her position. That goes through 2024, I think. So we are still looking at trying to find more sustainable funding that is more long-term.
And I think I want to continue the conversation I think we started about what can we do as a council to have a big event fundraiser that we can put some money into the family resource centers, and what does that look like, and how can we take a bite out of that apple as a council. So I've asked for this agenda item on here to stay on here for that reason, just so that we can continue to discuss. I think any leadership council that oversees any agency in this community, that's probably the number one charge that they have, is to find some funding. And so I want to charge all of us with that opportunity. I think the school district has done a phenomenal job through their ESSERS process to streamline some of that money, but I want us to see what we can do. I know that we talked about some one-time annual events, create an annual event, and I think we have that opportunity. So I know we're all heading into the summer, so if we could make that a goal for next year, and really plan for something to happen within our next year of meetings.
Rebecca, for the record?
Yes,
I have a
go for
question. So when we're talking about fundraising, like what are some of the things that we can and cannot do? So when we're thinking of things, we know what lane we're supposed to like kind of stay in.
Great question. And what I foresee us doing is coming up with our plan, and myself and Rochelle going to the new superintendent and maybe the director of grants and that program over there and say, this is our goal, what are our limits, what can we and cannot, where do we fall in line? I don't think our bylaws say what we can and cannot do, but I anticipate a meeting with the superintendent and Lauren Olson and saying, this is what our goal is, and please guide us in the right direction so that we, one, can be successful, and two, do it within the parameters of what the law allows us to do.
Rebecca, also there are outside agencies that do things like fundraisers. They do also sock drives, underwear drives for us, quarter drives, and they donate the funds to us. And then we have our grants department that help to oversee that. So sometimes people will say, we just want this money to go to students that are homeless, that are high school age. And then they help us stay, when we're spending those funds, they help us to keep on track with that's who we are providing those services to. The one thing that we have to be cautious as a committee or a council is whenever you're together and you have quorum, we're subject to open meeting law. So we do have to be aware of that if there's something that this group wants to do together, then that's something we have to work through with our legal counsel and making sure that the public is aware, because that is quorum and is considered a meeting when you're all together like that.
And then also one thing that I want to throw out there is the family resource centers are not unique to Nevada. They're out there everywhere in Nevada. Each county has their own, the state mandates how they operate, what they should do. Our county specifically pairs them with the school district. So I think that's where we really have to be unique and strategize the importance of the family resources being a community resource, not just a school district resource. Did I say that correctly? And so I think that's where we can get the public involved and not just lean on the school district we pair well with the school district because we can co-author some grants. And they can be the primary funding source. We have a great department through the school district to do that funding opportunity and search for those and then administer those grants. Whereas if we were a standalone family resource center, we would have to have somebody dedicated to grant writing, dedicated to administering those grants, where the school district takes on that responsibility. But in the communities, like in Lander County, they have a family resource centers that is a standalone. They apply for the same grants that we do. They just don't do it with the school district. They do it on their own. So I think we are paired with the school district in a unique sense that we have the advantages, and we just have to do it the right way to promote any fundraising that we do. So yeah.
Nessa Vancourt, for the record. A couple questions.
Okay.
One, this potential meeting with the superintendent, when would that potentially happen? Or like range of time, just for our own planning?
Should I answer that first?
Yes.
Okay. Well, she starts July 5th. And so I'm not totally sure yet. I don't know that I can answer that question yet. So once she starts, we do have within our office that Dr. Lamarca oversees, we have a meeting set up with her. So as she gets started and gets acclimated, I suspect that she's going to take time to kind of just get to know everybody in our district and some of our programming. And so I will advocate for that as soon as we can and give you all a sense of when we might be able to get a meeting with her to talk to her. So as soon as we can, I just don't have a sense yet of how
Yeah.
quickly that could happen.
Yeah, I know it's hard. Is that something with the consideration of the quorum that we would be able to attend or support? Would there be any value in having our chair or 2 members, whatever keeps us under a quorum, to be present?
I think it would be very valuable to have you
Okay.
all there. So I think as she gets in and I get a sense of when we might be able to or what the nature of that meeting is, I can try to advocate to have a meeting that includes council members, but without quorum.
Yeah. And then, you know, because if it doesn't happen by our next meeting, we could spend time in our September meeting talking through
Yeah.
whatever would be helpful for the pitch. Because one of my questions would be, what would be a dollar amount goal, right? And, you know, in follow up to your question about how do we not only just define the parameters of what we can and can't do, but how big do we need to dream, or what's our scale? Because that would also inform the kind of event we might pursue or who we might collaborate. And then, so just the amount range that would be like a dream, like what we would use it for. And then to your comment about, you know, this is a community resource, not a school district resource. I think one of the things we talk about a lot as a board is the importance of increasing visibility about the family resource centers. And ultimately, any story, we have to center the what's in it for me at the front of it. And so just wondering how we can do a better job telling the story of the importance of the FRCs. Maybe only people at the schools that house them care. I don't know. Obviously, you do work countywide, but you know how for those of it's almost like refining the pitch and the story. Like for people who are going to hear it, including the superintendent, what do we lose if we lose this position and the impact? And those are all the numbers you have, but. You know, I'd love to help with that kind of stuff, but that's where I feel like maybe as a committee we can bring some value to help think through how to craft the pitch. You already have all these grants, so you are pulling and borrowing from pitches you've already written, but just trying to picture where we can be helpful. You know, is it showing up at the meeting? Is it designing a fundraiser idea? Is it refining the pitch for the intended audience? Those sorts of things.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think something that triggered from that statement, Vanessa, thank you, is really what is our funding gap? Like coming from the world I live in nonprofit, what is our funding gap? Like we have this budget that is built that would sustain us or maintain us, not necessarily sustain us, but what is our gap? Knowing that we have a 2-year okay cushion, but we are opening 2 more family resource centers, and then they're coming on board in the next year or so. How do we sustain those? What is the dollar amount that will sustain? Then we'll have 5, correct? What will sustain those 5? And realistically, is 5 enough for a district our size, a community our size? Or do we need one down south, past Worcester?
Yeah.
And I know these are conversations that I've had individually.
Yeah.
Like, does Pine need one?
Yeah, it's kind of a discussion of how big is the need and what communities need a family resource center. In my perfect world, every school or every high
Absolutely.
school and middle school would have a family resource center, but
And I think that, I mean, we can have a realistic gap, but dream big. What does the dollar amount to fund a resource center for 1 year? And is it a pilot program that we show that, okay, we put a family resource center at Smithridge Elementary School and it works, and this is the numbers that we see that we serve, and okay, yes, this is the dollar amount that we served there. This is what it took to sustain that program. Where can we pull from? If not, we're going to lose X families that we served that we didn't touch otherwise, or maybe we did touch them, but it was out of sorts, out of place for them to go to Worcester to be utilized there, that sort of thing. I'm always mindful of, I appreciate Councilmember Seifert's conversation when Desert Skies went in, the bus. Like, we have to be mindful. The families that we're serving don't have access to transportation. So do we put one all the way up at Galena it's probably not the best use of
Right.
our resources. But so those things, I want to dream big, but I also want to know where the gap is so that when we're building our fundraiser, like if we're going to fundraise for $25,000, is that really, or do we want to go $500,000? And if we dream big and we fall short, at least we dreamed big. So those sorts of things. And I think the conversation should start now so that we can get those ideas out there. I think we're at an advantage, not that our outgoing superintendent was in any way, shape, or form discounting the use of family resource centers. I think seeing that there's the growth in family resource centers, they were on her radar. But we have a new superintendent coming in, and we can say we have the ability to impact this many more lives. Here's the numbers, and we've seen them grow over the years. I can tell you just on my time on the council, they've grown. The impact that we've had has grown, and it's going to continue to grow. Like, we're just still living in a pandemic. They're not calling it a pandemic anymore, but we have not seen the cause of what this, or we have not seen the effects of this pandemic. And I think the family resource centers can be utilized for some of that. So that's what I would ask, is if we can maybe at the next meeting come together with some of your guys' goals. What would the ideal world look like for you in family resource centers? And if I remember correctly, I think Sheila Leslie, I think, had some great data that we can pull from.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we have all of that. Sheila Leslie did a really nice job. And then our positions are public knowledge. We can pull actually how much those positions cost with benefits. And show you kind of the approximate cost and what ideally what would we like, what is the model that would work best if it's a family resource center director and a family advocate, or two family advocates, or what that could look like, just to give you some options, because there's a couple different models that we could look at depending on funding.
Perfect.
Mr. Chair, I just have something to say. So
Please.
I think also with the fact that we're going to open the new Family Resource Center in the new O'Brien Middle School, I'm assuming that those numbers will go way up too, because you haven't been in the middle school for a very long time, even though you've had presence out there.
Yeah.
Now that you're going to actually be in there, so that will be a great, sort of a great indicator for us. And I mean, we know that there's other people that need to be served. And we have really no idea what numbers those would be if we put some, put a FRC down at the Poli or somewhere like that. I mean,
Exactly.
because there's a need everywhere, but
Yeah.
every time we do that, we see those needs up. So I think this is a great idea, and I have some ideas I'll throw at you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Lisa, do you have anything?
I don't have anything to add. Just thank you for the discussion and some really good things to think about. And just thanks for your support.
Thank you. Any discussion from our members on Teams? Our invisible friends? There you are. No? Okay. So we will move on to item 2.04, which is presentation and discussion of the Washoe County School District Family Resource Center's 2021-2022 school year and outreach events, including future community outreach events and volunteer opportunities. This is for information and discussion only, and I am going to turn it over to Lisa Guzman.
Thank you. Jessie and I are going to tag team this, so she'll go ahead and review numbers served with you, and then I will go over the outreach activities.
Thank you.
This is Jasenia Segura for the record. I'm sharing now the FRC numbers served for this January of 2022 through May 31st, 2022. So we served 1,219 families, 1,346 children, 1,882 individuals. We've helped submit 485 applications, 939 utility assistance and EAP applications, 186 emergency housing assistance, 133 education, 23 employment, 727 food and nutrition, 129 healthcare, 34 transportation, 445 wellness, hygiene kits, gift cards, clothing vouchers, etc. And we did 1,558 referrals. Yes, that's all.
Question, will you help me understand where it says applications submitted? What do those applications look like? Are those applications for housing? Are those applications for assistance? What are those employment
it.
applications?
Lisa, if you could help me with that, please.
So that is mirroring our state Family Resource Center report, which wants us to report on applications for like SNAP and Medicaid and TANF and the Energy Assistance Program, so mostly government programs. So that is what would be entailed there.
And is that number duplicative anywhere else down below?
I don't think that it is.
Vanessa Vancouver for the record. The time range for the data, like in the first two columns, is different than the last one, but which just acknowledging, but as in doing the math, if you were to assume it was evenly distributed, and it's still a pretty significant increase in each column. Just wondering if you have any sense, even if anecdotal, of why that is. Do you tend to see an increase at that time of year?
So I think that a lot of it coincides with the weather, and as it starts to get colder, people are struggling to pay their power bills, and seasonal work might shut down for some people. Things just get a little more difficult and challenging, so people are reaching out a little bit more. I would say definitely the SAFE referrals go up in the cold weather, which is the Emergency Assistance Program through NV Energy. That gets a lot of people in the door, people that wouldn't necessarily be seeking our services, and then we have the opportunity to share with them, everything else that we provide. So that's a really good partnership, and yes, definitely business does increase during the cold weather.
And Lisa, remind me, the Family Resource Centers are the only ones processing the SAFE applications in Washoe County?
I believe currently we are. In the past, Community Services Agency was also processing, but I don't think that they are. Oh, actually, I think the Senior Center might be specifically for seniors, but definitely the biggest volume is through the Family Resource Center.
Vanessa, I want to add too that I think we're also seeing the effects of our current state in terms of economy, where gas prices are going up. So transportation is becoming more of a need. House prices continue to creep up and creep up. Rent keeps creeping up and creeping up. So I think they've seen some increase as cost of living just keeps on increasing. So I think that's some of the numbers that you're seeing too.
Mr. Chair, Susan Seaver for the record, I also think that that was pretty much the end of the additional money for unemployment and some of the pandemic programs that were out there. So, that sort of started to go to the end there. That also, and also it's after Christmas. It always seems like it shoots up after Christmas.
Rebecca Paris for the record. I have a question. So the emergency housing assistance, is that assistance like money that we help people with hotels, rent, or does that also include all like the applications we did for the county?
Lisa Guzman for the record. I think that number is a combination of the helping people access the funding through the Washoe County program that unfortunately has ended, as well as the payments that we have made through the Family Resource Center. So all housing assistance lumped together there.
So Rachel Kingham for the record. I have a question about the referrals. What does that refer to?
Lisa Guzman, for the record, we refer to a lot of different agencies in the community. So it could be for healthcare, for legal services, for childcare, for employment, disabilities, just on and on and on. So we definitely rely very heavily on other community agencies to help our clients meet their needs and goals. So there's a really lengthy list of agencies that we refer to.
Great question, Rachel.
Sorry.
Go
Mr.
for it.
Chair. The Vanessa for the record, Bancorp for the record. I don't know if this would be in the same section, but are you still using the call system? Because I do think there was also a way to track how people were finding you. That's not in the reporting, right? I'm just wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, so we are still using the CallRail platform, which is coming in very handy, especially with the ability to text with clients. I don't have access to the data at this time as far as where those calls are coming from, but it's something that we can look into and see if that would be available to share at our next meeting.
Or, even for the similar to the data you're producing for grants and applications and such, I don't know if that might be relevant for the meeting with the superintendent, or if that gives us a sense of some of these questions that were coming up earlier around where services are needed and can kind of inform all of the other brainstorming.
I think it's a great topic for another agenda item. I just don't want to get too off track of these outreach efforts. One question I had, looking at applications submitted, do you guys track information around helping individuals with rental assistance and that sort of thing? Is that found under housing assistance? I know there's differences in rental assistance, like maintaining and sustaining the place that you're in versus deposit assistance. Do you guys track the difference?
So I would ask that we have Wiley kind of clarify that for us, since he kind of pulls the data for this. But what I believe is that the emergency housing assistance would be more funding related, and then the referrals would be referring people out for other programs or deposit assistance.
Perfect, thank you. Great conversation. Any other comments, questions? All right, we can move on.
Rebecca, for the record.
Yes,
sorry.
Rebecca, go for it.
I guess since this is kind of like talking about community outreach and something and stuff like along those lines, I think also too, just pointing out, I just kind of want to point out some of the stuff that Jesse and them have been doing in North Valleys with partnering with Project 150, which is great, not just for us, but for Project 150 as well. It's a great partnership. And then the Liberty Dental as well. I've been seeing that going. So, and the clothes closet. So I think that that's just kind of something we should highlight as well, because that is a good outreach. And I think that that's something that a lot of the FRC should kind of look at doing too, because I think it's making a difference.
Thank you. I think that's what's going to come up next.
Rachel Kingham, for the record, you made me think of something. Is there a way to understand how these numbers break down with the three? There's 3 existing FRCs, right?
Yes. 4.
Okay. Is there? Oh, 4. Okay. Is there a way to break those numbers down across the 4 to gauge if there's higher need at one or another?
This is Lisa Guzman for the record. I think that there should be a way to do that through our eLogic database system. And if there's interest, that's something that we can look at sharing at the next meeting as well.
We can. I have seen it broken down by center. So yeah, you can definitely see which ones are a little bit more attended than others. And it does give you a sense of where the need is. And I'll tell you that the center out in the North Valleys where Jesse's at has had a huge increase in numbers at the Desert Heights Elementary, and it'll be interesting to see what that looks like once she moves to O'Brien. but it grew incredibly fast for a new family resource center, and Sparks usually has really high numbers. Desert Skies, well, they all do, but some of them are busier than others just because sometimes they're just right in the middle of the neighborhood. So.
And Rachel, thank you for bringing that up. I think as the year closes, because we're getting ready to close the year, I can work with Lisa for our next agenda to really break down by family resource centers to see some numbers comparatively. All right, we can move on to the events and collaboration events.
Okay, so we have a very lengthy list this time. We have been very busy, as was mentioned, especially out at North Valleys. So here are some of the things that they've been doing. Rebecca mentioned the dental days, the clothes closet, partnering with Project 150. Jesse and Edith out there have really been pounding the pavement and doing a lot of really wonderful things. I don't know, Jesse, if you want to talk at all about some of your...
Yes, so we do currently outreach twice a week, Mondays and Fridays. This is Jasenia, for the record, sorry. Yes, it's been a lot of outreach, a lot of going out there, letting everyone know we're there for them, whether they have kiddos in the school or not, as long as they live in the North Valleys and they have a need. We have extended now the partnership with Stead Manor and Access Manor there, over there by the North Valleys. The need is there. Now it's getting better, them knowing who we are and what we do and what we can do, whether it's direct services or referrals. That has been a great response from the community. They're all very excited to have us there. They hope that we stay there, because in the past we had a location at O'Brien, as you all know, and due to funding that had to close, and we are happy to be back, and we hope that can find available funding to continue there. I myself live in the North Valleys, and I know there's a need. I know everywhere there's a need now, but I know sometimes as a North Valleys resident myself, feel like we may get forgotten sometimes as the North Valleys out there. But yeah, great responses. I've received nothing but amazing feedback from the community. There's been a very close contact with them. We've opened a lot of relationship with the businesses around and the community themselves. They're very welcoming. They bring us meals, even though they are very limited at their homes. They want to cook us meals. I guess I may look hungry, I don't know. But they're very responsive in a very positive way. They're very close community. So yeah, I feel like I take it like my own community that I want to do good for, and I also want to support my other colleagues in their centers as well, and kind of share the good news. So I know sometimes I send too much emails, hey, look at what I find out and stuff, so we can all work together. But I think the more we know, the more we can work together, the better responses we can get. And again, as the community has said, we hope to continue.
Jesse, sorry for my naiveness. Tell me the distance between Desert Heights, where you guys are now, to O'Brien.
It is at least, I want to say, 3 miles difference.
Okay.
It's not that far, but it does make a difference when there's no transportation. Like, we had a mom that was ashamed to tell us that she didn't have a car, or that she lost her car. She walked from Golden Valley all the way to Desert Heights. That's a long way. For me, I live in Golden Valley. It takes me at least 10 to 12 minutes in good traffic. For her to walk, and she didn't tell me. I hugged her and I told her, you need to tell me next time. We will meet you. We will do a home visit and bring you food. You don't have to walk here in a stroller with your two little ones. So the North Valleys, between now and Cold Springs, we've started focusing our areas over there as well. It's a 25-minute drive on a freeway from Desert Heights. So that community, we do drive over there too, to Inskeep Elementary School. I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to go there. It's way out there.
Say that again, 25 minutes from where?
From Desert Heights.
To where?
To Inskeep Elementary School, like Cold Springs, which is a little farther than Cold Springs Middle
I
School.
thought you said O'Brien. I'm like, oh,
No, for Cold Springs area.
Okay.
So we try our best to not forget them, because they do feel forgotten at times. We do right after before school gets out, we go out there, we ask the schools, the principals and the assistant principals, and say, are you okay with me, while the parents are waiting to pick up their kiddos, for us to hang out flyers? And they're always more than happy to have us there. One or two assistant principals may be scared and but trying to figure out who we are and what are we doing on parents' cars and talking to them. But once they know us, they already know what we're doing. Because Sean, actually, one of our interns, got to experience what we do twice a week, and he was really good at it on his first day. So,
Awesome.
sorry, I know I went outside your question, but
No, I
yeah.
think that's important information, and I think something that you really talk about, and I think we need to explore that option, is how do we reach the schools that are out there? How do we reach Cold Springs, 25 minutes away? So they aren't, I mean, people are suffering in every community. And I think it's important that we try to. I know that we can't reach everyone, but we at least try. And I think you're doing a great job. And I've heard great things about the outreach that you have done out there outside of these meetings. So I think it's important that you continue to do the great work. You have some great fans in Lisa and Rochelle and Brenda and Wiley. The work that you do is not unnoticed. And even Melinda, the principal of O'Brien, has talked some great things about you. So I think it's important that you continue to do the great work that you do, because you have people that appreciate you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Yes, Vanessa.
Vanessa Mancourt for the record. Seeing the list and hearing you talk about what you're doing, I want to acknowledge that we often talk on this committee about increasing visibility for the family resource centers, and hearing you talk and hearing the, like colleagues supporting it is making me realize that you are increasing visibility, and it makes me feel bad for suggesting or making it seem like perhaps we weren't as an organization, right, collectively, because you're doing that. And I just want to acknowledge that the staff and those of you who are working on the front lines with people are the face of the organization, and you're doing a wonderful job building relationships and making impact. And I just, more of like a note to self, that when I think of increased visibility, I'm obviously thinking about it through this lens of in my circle, which is not in the North Valleys, and I'm just now recognizing that as I'm hearing you talk. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that, like, you're doing a wonderful job as staff increasing visibility, and I want to be better at knowing what my brain thinks when I say increased visibility, because it's obviously in a different place or in different circles or with different people. Maybe it's through a fundraising lens, but just want to acknowledge, like, you're doing wonderful work. And that's where the visibility matters the most, is the people who you're trying to reach to make aware of these services. And maybe our visibility that we're trying to increase is different, and maybe there's a way for us to distinguish it, or maybe it's just semantics, but I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Susan.
So, Mr. Chair, I will tell you, so I live in Sun Valley, and of course, the Family Resource Center there is mine, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, very
But
much
I
so.
work in the North Valley, so I work for
Agreed.
JCPenney. So what I usually do is I'm always making sure that, now that the new Family Resource Center is back there, that we actually have a flyer in my office. It's probably the only flyer we've ever been allowed to put up. But we make sure that, and I've been sending a lot of people your way, or at least telling them about it, because again, when we closed it before, that was a huge impact in that entire community. And it's not like Sun Valley where, I mean, now that we have a bus, we can get people there. But again, Cold Springs could be 30 minutes away from Stead. I mean, and then of course Golden Valley, that's almost 10 miles. I mean, so that family walked 10 miles, and not on very, very populated roads, and having to cross very, very dangerous intersections to get to you. So, yeah, so again, I always make sure, but again, visibility, I still think it's important for us to let other people know who maybe don't need the services, but maybe are mindful that they want to assist and like these services. I mean, you're talking about donors. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Because it is important that people know about that. And I mean, I know that Mr. Listener in the years, over the years, has always provided, something to this, because he knows what the value is, and he also knows his people who are buying his houses are going to use the services. So, thank you.
Thank you for that grateful thought. Anybody in Teams land want to chime in? Their own little world. All right. Lisa, if you want to continue reading, if not, we can.
Sure, okay. So let's see, so we heard some of the amazing things that are going on in North Valleys. Sun Valley is still partnering with the food bank for the mobile harvest. They also distribute food there. Jesse is also distributing food at the North Valleys and has a seniors food distribution monthly. Catholic Charities does a food distribution at Sparks High School, so Sparks staff is out there for that once a month, handing out flyers. We also attended the Catholic Charities Immigration Assistance Program open house. All of our centers have SNAP outreach, where we have a representative from the food bank come out and help people apply for SNAP on site. Brenda attended the JTNN Coalition meeting as part of her parenting grants, as well as planned some child abuse prevention events for Child Abuse Prevention Month in April. We attended the Family Health Festival through the food bank at Neal Road. Spark staff attended the Robert Mitchell Elementary School Craft Fair, and after that, the City of Sparks had a family event that we passed out flyers at. I enjoy attending the NET PCC meetings, which is a collaboration of the Reno Housing Authority and DEETR, and there are several other agencies on that, so that's a really good networking opportunity. We have been attending the family stability meetings, which focuses on the community schools model, which I think we're going to be talking about later. We attended a parent focus group at Sparks Middle School that was very informative. We've also been connecting with the 4 HMO providers for Medicaid, which has been very helpful. One of those is Silver Summit. You'll see farther down that we connected with some of the other ones as well. We did a presentation for Washoe County Human Services Agency and reminded the workers there that we are available to assist families, and that also ties back to our Title IV-B funding. We have attended some community care meetings of Nevada Urban Indians and also presented at their Partners Summit in May, so that was a wonderful opportunity. We toured the Our Place Family Shelter and have been working very closely with their staff as far as referring our families, trying to get them in. That's a really good partnership. We attended the Anthem Insurance Quarterly Partner Meeting, another one of the Medicaid programs. We had Awaken do a training for all of our intervention department staff. Awaken, in case you're not familiar with them, is an agency that assists victims of trafficking, and that is one of the priorities now of our Title IV-B funding, so we've partnered with them, and that's been very productive. Also related to the trafficking and our Title IV-B funding, we have participated in the CSEC task force meetings with Washoe County Human Services Agency as well as other providers. We attended the Dilworth 7th grade orientation. There was a showing of the Angst movie to generate awareness of anxiety at Sparks High School. We have attended multiple events for the new HUG High School that's going to be opening. We attended an event through the Washoe County Sheriff's Office called Barks and Badges, where they had the police dogs out. We attended the Trainer Morning Mug parent meeting. Brenda and her staff attended the Parents as Teachers and Positive Parenting Program training recently, and several of the directors attended the IEL Family Engagement Conference in Los Angeles. So we've been busy. can I answer any questions on that? And then, sorry, you'll see at the bottom some upcoming events. Just a reminder, the National Family Support Network does have their website where they're having webinar Wednesdays, and lots of cool events come up through there. And then July 30th is going to be a busy day. We have the Family Health Festival in Sun Valley, as well as Christmas in July at the Boys and Girls Club.
Lisa, I'll add one more that I just got emailed about today. There will be the Back to School Expo at the Reno Town Mall on August 13th, because the first day of school is August 15th. And we'll be distributing school supplies at that event.
Awesome. So I will ask my favorite question. Tell me about your favorite event.
I loved the Nevada Urban Indians Summit. I thought that was really cool. There was probably maybe 30 or so agencies there. We were one of maybe 5 or 6 or 7 that was able to speak, to share information about our program. So that was really nice to have that opportunity and be able to connect with other agencies. I really enjoyed all of them. I was really glad. This was the first time that I participated in the CSEC task force. Wiley has been attending those, but he wasn't able to, so I filled in for him. And that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. And something that came out of that is trying to work on like a little half sheet publicity or something that they and we and other agencies can kind of have out for parents to be able to look for signs and symptoms of trafficking. There are various forms of that floating around, but something that's kind of more parent oriented. So hopefully that's something that will come about soon. But we just really enjoy the opportunity to be out there and connecting with families and other agencies. If you hear of anything, let us know.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Jesse, what was your favorite event on this list?
I could go on and on and on. I just love seeing people getting the help, because I know they've been looking for it, whether it's in North Valleys, whether it's in Sparks, whether it's in Sun Valley or in Central, and now soon to be Hug. I'm just, my favorite thing was Medicaid provider representatives came to our Liberty Dental Days. HR from Washoe County School District staff came and volunteered their time for 2 weeks during spring break, and Medicaid providers representatives came and helped us transport kiddos for dental days at Desert Heights and at Stead Elementary. So that was amazing to me, because without them, we wouldn't been able to serve at least close to 60 students just at Desert Heights for kids that really needed the dental services that they were never being able to get. And so they literally filled out their school district volunteer forms and were able to get cleared by the district to be able to have that one-on-one connection with the parents and the kids. And that was amazing to me. A lot of great teamwork that happened. And they were right there answering all those questions to all those parents and all those families. So that was great. To me, that connection of all of us, whether we're district or not, we're together for one reason. So that was great.
Thank you. Yes, Rochelle, you're up next.
I just wanted to add one thing. Well, I'll tell you which my favorite one, because it was only one that I did do some of them, but not all of, not most of those. But the craft fair, because my daughter's a safe school professional and she coordinated the whole thing, and it was so much fun. It was really nice to just see families come together and just enjoy their time with their children. That was what was really nice. But we didn't put on here that we had a time capsule release or ceremony, or I don't know what that's called, but Wiley and Brenda and I were in Los Angeles for the IEL conference, but Lisa and Jesse were there, and that was at Desert Heights, and it was a time capsule from 20 years ago with Family Resource Center items and newspaper items, and there's actually a Family Resource Center day that the mayor proclaimed on May 15th, right? May 15th is the Family Resource Center official day. Yeah. It was pretty neat to see the old pictures, and the kids had put together stuff and newspaper clips and those kinds of things, but So that speaks to the longevity and,
Yeah.
and the work that the Family Resource Centers have been for. And there were people in there that started Family Resource Center, like Diana Haberlin, who actually started Family Resource Centers. And so that was really neat to see the picture. We were sad that we missed it, but I guess it was neat, and it was quite the production to
Yeah.
get this thing open. So
I can't believe I forgot to share that. That was an adventure day. There were rocks flying and concrete flying and shovels being broken. So shout out to the principal there. I didn't know he was that tough. So the kids had a really fun time seeing that happen. It took at least 45 minutes to get it out, but it happened. And like Rochelle said, it was great to see. And you know, those pictures, I saw a familiar face. Lisa was there on those pictures. And yeah, it was great.
we would have invited you all, but it was
Last
really
minute.
last minute. I mean, we didn't have a whole lot of notice. So we
Right.
just were like, okay, we're going to do this tomorrow. So yeah.
Yes.
What about our
Just a
intern?
couple of
Oh,
quick
go ahead.
questions. Sorry, Rachel Kingham. With the summer coming up, so I know that on the upcoming it mentions the end of July. I have no doubt you guys are going to be busy all summer long. Is there a way to see sort of a calendar of where you'll be that we could potentially either think about attending or think about how we can put on that sort of fundraising donor hat? And like Vanessa had mentioned, thinking of generating funds and that awareness, and how we might bring a little bit of that to the smaller events in order just to increase a bit of that and see where interest lies. So I don't know if there's like a calendar for during the summer or how you organize those.
So Rachel, I'll chime in really quick. We just have to be mindful of open meeting law, and if we all show up to the same event and it's not publicly noticed. So in the past, they have generally put those out there for us so that we can recruit people to go to these events if we're asked what events are the Family Resource Centers holding. But this is more for the staff that at the resource centers, they plan to attend these. But as a council member, what I would suggest is to visit the Family Resource Centers and really engage with the staff and be a part of that conversation. The public events get hard because we would then, if all 7 of us showed up, we would be in violation of open meeting law. So we tend to not attend those events as much as we want to. But I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Rochelle.
No, that's all I was going to say is, and if there are things that you are interested in, just let us know ahead of time, just so we can be mindful of who is coming so we can avoid having quorum unintentionally.
Can I add one couple of events? Almost forgot, Melinda asked me to remember to share, Melinda Beaker. There are a couple of big events that she has it posted all over her website for the whole public to attend, for the opening cutting ribbon in August, as well as their family night. So that's just open out there for everyone because she's super excited that the new school is about to be done.
At the Feimster Resource Center?
No, the O'Brien Middle School.
O'Brien.
It'll be done towards the end of July, and opening day, I believe, is the beginning of August. Yeah.
And those things, I think if we all want to attend, we just have to let legal know so that it can be publicly noticed. Those things are big and important. Since I have had my time on the council, the only resource center that we opened was Susan's in the north, and not the North Valleys at Desert Skies. So those things are very important to us. So if they're, go for it.
No, I was just going to add, we have our legal counsel, so she might want to chime in here. But if this is something that we do, that you want to attend, we do have to notify public because there would be quorum, and then we can't sit together and discuss things because you need to have an agenda ahead of time that you're posting ahead of time. And so we just have to be careful about interacting too. And I know that doesn't feel right, but we have to be cautious about
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely. Sarah, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I mean, you guys are hitting it. What we don't want is basically walking quorums and deliberations. So there's not necessarily a prohibition of you all gathering, at the same place, but the concern is that you all together could eventually lead to some deliberations, which is why we caution against the entire group at these sort of functions, because it could potentially lead to a quorum and deliberations outside of an open meeting. So we like to be very cautious on those things. So if possible, then maybe it could be organized where some of the committee members would attend, or if everyone wants to attend a big event, we just need to be very cautious about making sure you guys don't group together and have these kind of serial communications that are essentially deliberations.
Thank you for that. Any other conversations about the events that we've had or the events that are upcoming? Now that our intern is back in the room, I would like to invite him up to the podium for him to share what his favorite event that he's gotten to participate in.
Kashawn's really new, so he might be able to give you just a little sense of
So
what
I wasn't
his-
able to attend any of these events, but I did community outreach with Yesenia, and I was really excited about that and got to communicate with the parents and let them know about the family resource centers. That was exciting for me.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Awesome. That was item 2.04, so we can move on to item 2.05, which is presentation and discussion of the Washoe County School District Family Stability Pilot Community Schools Project at the Family Resource Center sites at the new Proctor R. Hug High School and William O'Brien Middle School. This is for information and discussion only. And I'm going to allow Rochelle to introduce the item.
Okay. Well, there's a couple things in this item, and we had Dr. McClendon from the HDFS department. I don't think it's called that anymore, but I don't have my notes in front of me. And Dr. Sam Ellen. I got it wrong when I introduced them at the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission. Aaron Reich. They came and presented to the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission. We continue to meet as a group around full service community schools. That includes resources around family resource centers and the potential to apply for positions for this. We've talked about this a little bit before, but just to give you a sense of what this looks like, as a group, we have, and these are several different agencies that have met together. We have developed some pilots schools that we would like to target, and that would be Desert Skies at Sparks Middle School and potentially O'Brien Middle School. So we will have family resources centers at 2 of those middle schools. Sparks Middle School would like to have a family resource center. We just don't have current funding for staff there at this time. The primary idea around full service community schools are first, there's co-located resources within the school. That includes things like communities in schools, which are different than community schools, family resource centers, maybe mental health services, maybe medical services, dental services. It's really guided around the voice of the community, so community members, families, and students sort of lead what sort of community resources would be located at the school. So what is located at Sparks Middle School can look very different than what is at O'Brien. So like Rebecca, when you were talking about clothing, maybe there's one school that identifies a clothes closet as a need, but another one doesn't feel as much, and maybe food is more of a need for them. So they're going to look different because they're going to reflect the needs that the community is expressing. It can also potentially be things like adult education located at schools, high sets, English classes, citizenship classes, anything that the community is identifying as a need. It's bolstering before and after school programs, tutoring programs. So it's looking at academics, but it's also looking at the social emotional needs of the community as well, and having the school as the community hub. So we're really excited to see that. We did actually collaboratively write an RFP last May 2021, but that RFP was pulled, and there was more money dedicated. They have not released, to my knowledge, yet that RFP, although that was supposed to be weeks ago, for us to continue to apply for that. So we do have a good grant put together already. It might look a little bit different depending on what this RFP looks like. UNR is leading that work. There will be a social worker who is coordinating those services. So we have one person that's dedicated at each school to coordinate those services, locating those services. What does that look like, and eliciting the voice of the community. And so we're really excited about that. We're also excited to let you know that we are opening up a family resource center
Hold on.
at. Oh,
Can we go back to the
Oh, yeah,
full,
sorry.
just so I can ask some
Yes.
questions and we can
Yeah.
topic that one?
Yes.
So talking about the full school community, remind me how to say that.
The full service community.
Full service community schools. So the funding for that is all inclusive in that grant, correct? For the 3 schools, there is no money that is being asked of the school district.
Correct.
In that, in the conversations that you've had, how does Family Resource Centers fit into that funding source? Do they want to combine? Do they want to add additional? What does that look like?
It would provide for existing family resource centers some sustainability for funding for positions. It might provide some programmatic funding as well for direct resources, and it could expand family resource centers into Sparks Middle School.
And would that take away from Sparks High School, or would that be in addition? Would it be?
That would be in addition.
In
It would
addition.
not, yeah.
Okay. And maybe this isn't the right place. Maybe we can talk about it. We'll talk about it after this
Okay.
question.
Okay.
Go for it. Is there any other questions about the full service community schools?
The closest model that we have to that right now is Desert Skies. They have clinical services located there. They have family resource centers. They have, I don't think they did any medical sorts of outreach that I'm aware of, but there's a lot of co-located services within that school right now. So, so that would strengthen that system at Desert Skies.
So this grant that is written by UNR will provide the social worker and
Yes.
the staff to run the school, the full service community
Correct.
schools. And they'll co-mingle with the family resource centers.
Right.
Perfect. Thank you.
When is the application again? Will you explain that part again? Because we had talked about this before,
Yeah.
right, of this coming about, and if I heard you correctly, you had written it, the RFPs.
Yeah.
Okay, can you say that?
It's going to be a grant for full service community schools. So that's essentially what that money was set aside for. The Biden administration they pulled it and then they dedicated more funding to this particular initiative. So it is really expanding it. And there are other districts that do this now. Not statewide, but that's something that they would like to look at, but district-wide. So when we went to Los Angeles, they are doing that within LA County right now. So
And you're waiting to apply?
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
they haven't released the RFP
That's-
yet.
okay,
Yeah.
got
So
it.
once we get to see it, we'll know better sort of what that RFP looks like
Okay.
and how we need to write it.
Awesome.
So for the record, Susan Sievert, I do want to say this is the model I've always wanted to see, where it's full service, where when you're at the school, whatever you need, you can pretty much get. And I know that Desert Skies, that was one of the models that they started with. The actual middle school wanted it, the superintendent, or the principal wanted it. Because I mean, everything from Boys and Girls Club to,
Right.
all that's there, right there for service. So when the parent goes, that's, they only have to go one spot.
Exactly.
Which is a great model. So I'd love to see this expanded. I can't wait to see it expanded.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting, and I know you've advocated for it for years and years, and so it's exciting to see that being strengthened and it being a little more intentional so that there is a coordinator that's helping to co-locate all those services and hearing the community voice.
And the other thing is letting the community decide what
Right,
to do, because that's
exactly.
always been sometimes an issue. And we want to cookie cutter everything, and we
Yeah.
can't do that anymore.
Yep.
A question that I have around this, in the grant itself, can you walk us through what the grant looks like? It's a 5-year sustainability, or
It
then
is.
then they want us to come up with some more avenues to sustain the programs long term?
Yeah, and I'm not totally familiar. I know Dr. McClendon talked a bit about that at the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission. I'm not totally familiar with what this new grant's going to look like.
Okay.
But yeah, from what we know, it will be a 5-year grant, and we do need to think about long-term sustainability after the 5 years.
And then the last question I will ask about this portion is the 3 schools that are identified. Is there room for more, or is it dedicated because the funding that they requested is going to sustain the funding or the programs for three schools?
I don't know if I can answer that. I don't think that there's sufficient funding to expand more than that. There might be something down the road that we would like to see, but because this is a pilot, we're trying to start small with 3 middle schools to see what do we need to modify, what's working, what's not working, those kinds of things.
Awesome, thank you.
I had a question, Rebecca, for the record, kind of going back to how it's all going to come together, I guess. So you're going to have a family resource center and then the social worker or the UNR together, separate? How is that going to work? And in terms of what will the family resource centers kind of, like what services will they provide as opposed to like what the social worker and that part will
So the
provide?
social worker is not going to be providing direct services. Family resource centers, community and school, the service providers that are co-located there will provide the direct services. That social worker is going to coordinate those services. So coordinate the conversations with the community to identify the needs, maybe do a needs assessment of the area as well, and then coordinate co-locating those services there. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but it is a full-time job to develop those partnerships, to continue to keep those relationships strong, and to make sure that we are listening to the community. This pilot is designed to do things not for people, but with people, so that we're not deciding for the community what they need. They decide that, and then we work on bringing those resources to the school. Does that make sense? Okay.
Do you want to talk about the new family resource centers?
Yeah, we have an existing one right now at Desert Heights. That one will move to the new O'Brien Middle School once that's open. We got to meet, Jesse and I met with Melinda Baker, the principal at O'Brien, a few weeks ago. And it looks like it's sort of similar to Desert Skies, but there's some differences. What's really cool is it will have a separate entrance so that families can access services without having to walk through the office. And it's a dedicated space for family resource centers there. And so we're really excited about that, and hopefully we'll get to move in sometime in July or August. And then the Feemster Family Resource Center at the new Hug High School over by Wild Creek will open this summer as well. And that is a whole different, that school is amazing. I've never seen a school like that before. That is also a dedicated location for family resource centers there too. So that one is really exciting, and we'll be able to invite you guys over and see those 2 locations once we get in there.
Awesome. So the question that I had about the family resource centers, who decides where the family resource centers go? Like at what location? Going back to the Sparks Middle School, Sparks High School model. And then also the second part to that question is dreaming big down the road. Is there plots of ideas of where other resource centers will go, knowing that the full service community schools are in O'Brien, Desert Skies, and Sparks Middle School?
Right. That's a complex question or answer, I guess. Ideally, what we like to do is a needs assessment in an area.
Okay.
where there is a need. So we're looking at socioeconomic status in that location, access to transportation, access to housing, those kinds of things. So initially, some of the family resource centers, like the ones in Sun Valley, were based on those kinds of decisions. Some of these other family resource centers, like the Hug Family Resource Center, that one sort of just kind of happened. And there was a request for a family resource center there, and funding came up, and we are now doing a family resource center there. So, so that one kind of just sort of happened. But ideally, we want to do a needs assessment to identify that. There's some really good data for the North Valleys that we've looked at. So, and there's been a needs assessment done there, so we know what some of the challenges are there. It's resource barren there. There's essentially no resources really in that area. So we're also looking at the concentration of where resources are at when we're thinking about a family resource center. If we got funding and we needed to decide where's the best place for a family resource center to go, those are some of the things that we need to be looking at. But some of the family resource centers have opened because there's space here. That's a challenge sometimes because we don't have the funding to pay for regular rent. So there's a lot that goes into where we actually end up.
Thank you. And I just wanted to hear the process so that I understood the reasoning behind it. The next question I have is the resource center, the family resource center at the new Hug location. Do you feel that it's going to benefit the population at large, being that we just opened Desert Skies 2 years ago? Is it going to pull from Desert Skies, and is our goal to pull from Desert Skies and Sparks? Or is it that we're seeing that there's a need in that geographic location? Because it's close to Sparks High School.
Yeah, it's
and
close.
it's close to Desert
right in the
Skies,
middle.
right?
Yeah.
It's, I think, 10-mile radius to both schools.
Right. So that one is a little bit challenging, but we have to sort of talk internally. So we have regions where each family resource center serves. Internally, we need to kind of talk about, okay, where's the best way for us to distribute who is doing what. My guess is Desert Skies will stay focused on Sun Valley and at least part of the Golden Valley area. And this is just me guessing, so sorry, staff. I'm just throwing it out there. Sparks stays in the Sparks area. Hug will stay sort of like south of Hug, where we're looking at the Weedican area. But we kind of have to work through and talk about that. So we will be having some planning meetings this summer to kind of talk about internally how are we going to best distribute this so that we're all making sure we're covering everywhere and we're serving everybody that we need to serve.
And then I'm okay with you telling me it's none of my business, but staffing-wise, is it already laid out? Is it going to be a director and a family advocate at each location, or are we going to utilize some directors that are already in place? So far, these are really preliminary things. We don't actually have the funding for the Feimster Family Resource Center in hand yet. But with the funding that is being proposed, we will have 2 family advocates there. So we'll have to talk with the directors over who will supervise that. Okay. We haven't figured those things out yet. So in that particular one, there will not be a director that's located there full time. Okay. I just want success where everybody is happy and successful, so.
Yeah, agreed.
Any questions about the new family resource centers? Yeah. I am too. It's always exciting to have new centers come on board. I know those of us that were around when Desert Skies opened, it was a bright light in our days, knowing that community, I mean, they had the Sun Valley Community Center that we were housed at for a while, but to be at the school and then to go into the school and see the resource center.
Well, Mr. Chair, at one time we were in in a trailer at Sun Valley Elementary School for quite a while that leaked like a sieve. So it has progressed over the years.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Any other comments, concerns, questions about item 2.05? No? Awesome. We will move to item 3, which is our closing items. I'll ask again for any public comment.
Mr. Chair, I do have just a couple. I'll put my Sun Valley hat on here real quick. So I will let everybody know that we are going to have free movie in the park this Friday. So we're going to bring your lawn chair. It'll be the sheriff department will be there with all their goodies that everybody can crawl over, and along with the fire department. And then we're showing the movie The Krugs. So it's a pretty good movie. And then the next day, which would be the 18th, is our first free swim day. And I will tell you, I have more gray hair and lost more hair in the last 6 weeks trying to find lifeguards. So it has been quite a struggle, not just for my general improvement district, but for everybody to find lifeguards. 2 weeks ago, we had 2. So once school got out, now we're up to 8. So at least we can open the pool. So we were a little worried there. So yeah, for free swim day, and then we'll have our next free swim day will be on July 4th. We always have a free swim day on July 4th. So come on out, bring your bathing suit. Check out our new mural on our pool. We actually commissioned a local artist to paint a beautiful mural on the pool side. That's actually above the pool deck. So it's going really well. And so come out and swim with us.
I have a question. Where can we find information to share? What's the best place?
svgid.com. And then we do have a community calendar, and we do try to put everything that we know on that community calendar. And I will make sure that the Family Health Festival gets put on that calendar as soon as I can get a chance to text. But yes, we do have a community calendar, and we also advertise the events. We actually have a digital sign out next to the pool now that we're able to advertise events on also. So. And we have quite a robust community out there on Facebook. It's the Sun Valley community, which Lemon Valley, Sun Valley, and North Valleys all sort of share each other. So once we put that stuff out there, it gets out there pretty quick. And so hopefully we'll have the pool's already open. We've already had big numbers at the pool. Even with the weather and the wind, they were disappointed Sunday because we actually had to close the pool because when the wind blows that hard, they can't see the bottom of the pool, so they can't open the pool. So, but we were able to reimburse that. And then also we had a couple agencies in the area buy what totaled up to be almost 1,000 tokens. So we are happy to see that they're utilizing our pool and bringing kids out. So the more the merrier. I always say I love it when I could step on little heads and not get my feet wet.
Awesome. Any other public comment?
If I may, please.
Yes.
This is very belated, and my most sincere apologies, but I think we were going to try to meet in January, and that didn't happen, and we met in March, and this escaped me. But I think that some of you contributed to Adopt a Family for Christmas for Sparks, and I have this thank you note from our family that was adopted, and let's see, I'll read this. There is no words to describe how grateful my family is that your family opened your hearts to help my family. We wanted to say thank you and God bless, and they signed it. So thank you so much for adopting our family. And I have copies because I meant to share them with you, and I forgot. So if anybody wants to have one, I have those here, and you're welcome to have. And thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. With that, I will make our next meeting announcement as September 21st. So stay tuned as to a location. And with that, it is 7:25, and I will adjourn our meeting.